Hello and welcome. I'm Asima Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Yemen has said that 7 people have been killed in the country as a Saudi-led coalition has attacked the UAE-backed separatists. More than 20 people have also been wounded in the alleged attack. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has said that he's open to negotiating with the United States on combating drug trafficking. He strikes a more conciliatory tone towards Washington, even as he remains silent on reports of a recent CIA-led strike. The Israeli military says it intercepts a false target in Bahram after drone sirens sound, while Hezbollah sources deny involvement. The incident comes as pressure grows on Lebanon to disarm Hezbollah under a possible truce deal. As the humanitarian crisis worsens in Gaza, foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, UAE, Indonesia, Pakistan, Turkey, Qatar, and Egypt have expressed deep alarm. The ministers have also highlighted that the severe weather has shown the fragility of existing humanitarian conditions. Investigators continue searching for victims after a Swiss ski resort bar fire that has killed around 40 people and injured more than 100. With doctors treating severe burn cases, officials say identification could take days or weeks as the cause remains unclear and forensic teams work at the scene. China says President Xi will host South Korean President Lee Jae-myung from Sunday, signaling a push to strengthen ties. It is their second meeting in 2 months, with Beijing emphasizing economic cooperation and tourism amid regional strains. Hong Kong's anti-graft agency arrests 21 people over suspected corruption linked to renovation projects at 2 housing estates. Authorities say the action follows a wider crackdown after a deadly high-rise fire and includes allegations of bribery and bid manipulation. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has named spy chief Budanov as the new chief of staff. This comes after the dismissal of PF Andriy Yermak, the longtime chief of staff. Now for this hour, we start with Europe. Around 50 people were hurt in a New Year fire. It is Swiss bars that have been transferred or will be transferred to other European countries for treatment, according to the president of the canton. The blaze has ripped through a crowded bar in the ski resort of Crans-Montana, killing more than 40 people and injuring over 100. Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani has visited the site and laid flowers at a memorial for the victims. 13 Italians were injured and 6 remain missing. 4 more patients are said to be transferred to Milan for treatment. Swiss authorities say the fire, likely caused by sparklers, is being treated as an accident, not an attack, as investigations continue. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Mark Sutherland. He's a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now looking at this, thank you. Now looking at this, what more can you tell us about this incident that's still unfolding?
I think, as you quite rightly pointed out, extremely sad in the fact that we're looking at 40 deaths in Crans-Montana and up to 113 people injured. And you said the concern over how this fire has started, and it looks like that within the celebrations that there are sparklers put in champagne bottles. This is what the Swiss authorities are beginning to say, and that, as you can imagine, a waitress holding a tray of champagne, and then they're saying, I don't know how the actual architecture of the building, I don't know how low the ceiling is, but as these things were then sparking off like any kind of firework, that the comment is that they then collectively then went up to the ceiling, and then we have this awful event that unfolded fire. Now, at the end of the day, like we've had in the UK over here many years ago, when you used to have a certain tile type in the ceiling, the tile was not fire retardant. It would immediately catch fire. So it's down to the regulations. I had seen a comment to say that whoever bought that bar, that potentially they were then going to be doing some decorative changes and do a complete refurb. Not totally sure on that, but that's been a discussion. What we are sure is that this is an absolutely appalling and very, very sad incident, especially when I think we hear that an Italian young boy of 16, 17 have died. And as you, and of course, and others, sadly, and as you raise that point over the fact that at this moment, people are treating it as an appalling accident and incident, and not on any other lines of inquiry. But the number one thing is to wait and see more and more what the Swiss authorities will then unfold. All we do know is that these people need to be and families kept in our thoughts and prayers, because this is an awful tragedy.
Yes.
Asuma.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Sutherland for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you for a later discussion as well. Now, moving the focus on to Africa, according to local and military officials, Islamic State-linked rebels have killed at least 15 people in a series of overnight attacks on villages in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The assaults took place on Thursday night in Lubero territory in North Kivu province, an area repeatedly targeted by the Allied Democratic Forces, or ADF. Local authorities said civilians were the primary victims, with some killed using bladed weapons. 2 Congolese soldiers were also reported dead following clashes with the attackers. The ADF, which originated as a Ugandan rebel group and is now affiliated with Islamic State, has carried out frequent deadly raids despite joint military operations by Congolese and Ugandan forces. Civil society leaders said homes were burned during the attacks, and officials warned residents not to gather for funerals until the area is secured, citing fears of ambushes. The violence is separate from ongoing fighting between Congolese forces and Rwanda-backed M23 rebels. But as to mounting insecurity in eastern Congo, where civilians continue to bear the brunt of armed conflict. For this discussion, we welcome Mr. Ayanaga Olugbenga Paul. He's a public analyst, joins us live from Lagos. Thank you very much, Mr. Paul, for joining us. Happy New Year's to you. Now, looking at this,
Thank you.
Thank you. What more can you tell us about this unfolding situation in DRC?
Always maintain that the DRC issue is more of lack of leadership from the DRC government rather than all this rebel group. I've always said it that the challenge that DRC is facing in their last deal that they went to sign in the US. Yes, the news is quick to say that this is unrelated with the M23 rebel that they are facing, but I don't think it is unrelated, because I've always said that until you put all players in the game, no matter how small they are, on the dialogue table when you are dialoguing, you will run the risk of neglecting some people while you are focusing on some people. And even when you have a successful dialogue and agreement, those whom you've neglected will find a way to cause disaffection between those whom you have agreed with, that will now make you start pointing fingers at each other. And this is an example of it happening over there in Lubero with this ADF. Yes, the ADF, just like the M23 rebel, they have been in the Congo bushes since 1990. And their modus operandi is not dissimilar from that of the Fulani herdsmen that we have in Nigeria. But their own peculiar case over there is the fact that the areas where most of these conflicts take place is mineral rich. rich. So it is not about agriculture produce, it's about mineral richness that certain elements want to control. Most of the time, certain non-African external players who in their fight for economic superiority in the world want to use these African rebel groups as pawn in their end games. And I think that it is high time that the Congolese government should look inward, empower its military, and when I mean empower its military, make sure that the foot soldiers on the field are well equipped, well fed, well taken care of, such that their morale will be high, such that they won't be the one to serve as collaborators with some of this terror group in routing the government, because that is what this is looking like. And there has to be a way for people vigilante method to take place so that people can be able to protect themselves before government forces arrive with reinforcement. So if there is need for law to be changed, I think they should look into that. And of course, like the government has advised, this is not a time to be doing huge funeral gathering, because the modus operandi of this terror group is that whilst people are going for their funeral procession, they may lay ambush and kill more people. But our hearts are with the victim, and we hope that the government will get its act right and stop blaming others, but look inward to resolve the issue of shoring up the strength of its military so that it can rout all these insurgent groups that are bedeviling the nation. And it's funny that most of the countries where this so-called insurgent group emerge from are tiny countries compared to the sheer size of the DRC.
Right. And Mr. Paul, what do you think? What could come next for this? As we only know that this situation, it's just assault took place on Thursday night, and is this contained, or what's the situation like?
No, I don't think it's contained, because it's an asymmetric warfare. When you think you have contained it, these people will run back into the bush, hibernate for some while, and when you least expect, they strike. They strike when people are happy and they let their guards down. They strike when people are sleeping and their guards are down. And that is the modus operandi that we have seen play out. And so I don't think it is the time for the government to rest on its oar, or even the people in the communities to rest on their oars in protecting their neighborhood, because there seems, as far as I'm concerned, I don't see any hope in sight immediately that will curb these people, except the ordinary citizens are also in a way empowered, maybe to hold more weapons than just cutlasses and sticks that they are protecting themselves with at the moment, so that fire for fire, people will be able to defend themselves. They will not just be sitting ducks when these aggressors attack them at any time.
With that, I would like to thank Mr. Ayanuga Olugbenga Paul for joining us today and sharing that insight. Thank you very much, Mr. Paul. Now we move the focus on to Middle East. Israel's culture and sports minister Miki Zohar has sparked controversy after saying the Gaza Strip belongs to Israel, describing Palestinians there as guests whom Israel is allowing to stay for now. The lawmaker made the remarks in an interview with Israeli media while defending his threat to cut funding to the film industry. His comments followed the Ophir Award win for film about a Palestinian boy denied entry into Israel called The Sea. Zohar has accused the movie of portraying Israel as an apartheid state and said government funding should support films Israelis want to see. His remarks have also drawn criticism and amid growing concerns over artistic freedom and state funding. Now for this discussion, we welcome back. Mr. Mark Sutherland, he's a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from London. Now, what are we to make of this situation where, an Israeli culture and sports minister has so openly said that Palestinians living in Gaza are guests that who Israel is allowing them to stay, and as a democracy, should Israel review these funds for whatever movie Israeli people make or people over there make, regardless of what the current government may be, or this particular person, Miki Zohar's party would want to see.
Let's try and have a history lesson, Asuma, in about 30 seconds, and remembering I'll try and address in regard to the creative industry comment.
Yes.
But one thing we have to remember is that when David Ben-Gurion declared the nation of Israel on the 14th of May, 1948, and the independence, we haven't got time to go through the mandate and all the history that the British had, all the leading up to that, and of course the recognition of Israel as a nation legally. At that point, when all the various countries then attacked Israel, one of the areas that Israel did not succeed in then at that time bringing into Israel was what we are then known as the Gaza Strip. It wasn't until 1967 that the Gaza Strip then came under Israeli control, but it was under Egyptian control, and they asked the Egyptians to take it back. They then refused. They have then used the people living in the Gaza area as a weapon for many years. We go through the Intifada 1, 2, 3 and infinitum, and when people are then shouting globalize the Intifada, then you go back to that and look at what happened. There was a withdrawal from that to start to then have another go at a two-state solution. The first was, in fact, it's called was Transjordan to Jordan. The Israelis were then left with 22% of the land. If people don't believe me, go and check the history. So in 2005, Israeli citizens, it was Mediterranean there, beautiful part on the Mediterranean. They then withdrew. Ariel Sharon was put under pressure by Americans politically to then withdraw and hand it over to the Palestinians. We then look at this whole thing of the right of return. Inat Wilf has written an excellent book with her colleague to describe this, where you have permanent refugeeism as a business. Then some people may be offended by that, but they then need to go look through the history, and that people would turn around and say, I'm then a permanent refugee. There is so much to unpack there. And of course, remember the appalling attack on the 7th of October 2023 by Hamas. In regard to filmmaking, in regard to creative industries, of course, you and I are fully aware that within any creative industry, any expression of that, there is always what people would call time for propaganda. The Oscars, in regard to Hollywood, which I, on a personal level, class as extremely left-wing, there will be various causes that they would then adhere to, and one is then looking at what they would then term and push forward as the Palestinian cause. They have then given an Oscar previously to a documentary in the last 2 years in regard to that. The bottom line is that people want to hear the truth. The creative industries have a responsibility to do that. The BBC over here recently got in severe trouble over pushing a documentary about a young boy's life in Gaza. And then when we examine that, of how many different types of clothing or shoes that particular individual was wearing, and then we find out that he's the son of someone who is connected with Hamas, with the Hamas Authority, and where is the money going? And then money is then paid from the BBC to that family. So that has then occurred, and the woman that oversaw that in regard to the BBC has just been given an honours in the New Year's honours list over here in the UK. okay. Asuma, we need many hours to go through all of this because at times it's far more complex than people think. It's a bit like saying the getting annoyed with Israel
Yes.
about the amount of NGOs that are being pushed out.
Unfortunately, Mr. Sutherland, we're running out of time for that discussion, but thank you very much for joining us and shedding light on the history and the ongoing situation with us on NewsX World. Thank you very much. Now we move the focus on to online. India's Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has ordered the social media platform X to immediately remove and disable obscene, indecent, and sexually explicit content created through its AI service Grok. A comprehensive review of Grok's technical and governance safeguards has been directed, with all offending content to be removed without tampering. Meanwhile, X has been asked to submit an action taken report within 72 hours outlining the steps taken, the role of the Chief Compliance Officer, and compliance with mandatory reporting. However, the ministry has flagged that misuse of AI to target women or generate derogatory content violates multiple laws, including the IT Act, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, and the Indecent Representation of Women Act. Strict user policies, including suspension and termination of violators, have been mandated, and failure to comply could lead to loss of safe harbor and legal action. Now, for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General Sudhakarji. He's a senior strategic and international affairs expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for joining us once again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, this a very significant move by Indian government. How do you think how will this enforced, and what's the benefit and short-term and long-term effects of this?
Asuma, good evening. Thank you for inviting me for your show, and
thank you.
Excellent theme picked up by NewsX World. This definitely defines the social character of a country. That is what I have been talking through your channel, whether it is USA or European countries. Character of a country is defined by the laws which are formulated. The IT law, or the IT Act 2000 and the IT Rules 2021, they reflect the depth and the strength of the principles and the ethos that one is expected to maintain in the society. So towards that end, I see a lot of wisdom, a lot of fair play, and a lot of civility in a rules-based democratic country like India. And I must compliment the government of India for having responded in a proactive manner. Because for the viewers to understand, Soma, if you allow me,
yes,
you see, Grok is a tool.
Yes.
Grok is an AI tool that people have to understand, because there are many who may not be aware of what we are talking about. So Grok is an AI tool, and all AI tools are supposed to be good. They are supposed to be contributing to the larger efficiency of the ecosystem of of the business today. But the larger good and the efficiency of the business today also should have some ethics, some norms, some discipline. Here is a tool which actually enables, enables in what all manner, showing women in a derogatory or vulgar manner, indecently they denigrate them, and the most important thing is, they generate, publish, or share obscene images or videos of women in a most undesirable and vulgar manner. So, for lack of correct expression, I should not talk like this, but to define it, make people understand through your channel, it is something, converting some some civilized kind of a communication or presentation of a picture of a woman or women into such objectionable manner which should not be accepted by a rules-based society. So towards that end, India has done well, and the MeitY or the Meiti, they have issued a formal notice to X, and X, I feel Elon Musk could do well to carry out a kind of a introspection before launching any kind of a platform. A platform like this coming up in Indian context is highly disastrous. Nobody is going to accept in India. He is going to turn out to be the biggest, the evil in Indian context. So therefore, it will do well that whatever the central government has raised, that he should remove all the obscene and sexually explicit contents. This actually is a reflection of misuse of the tool, the AI tool called Grok. It will do good to him if he sticks to the IT law of India and also stops generating and circulating obscene and sexually explicit content targeting women and children. It is highly dangerous. It may actually land him up in very, very thick soup, and he may lose the market, which is so huge in a country like India. Back to you, Asuma.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank retired Major General Sudhakarji for joining us once again and sharing that insight on this very timely, important topic. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. Drug makers in the US plan to raise prices on at least 350 branded medicines in 2026. The increases will affect vaccines for COVID, RSF, RSV, and shingles, as well as cancer treatment. Ibrance, the median hike is about 4%, similar to last year. Some prices will also drop. Boehringer Ingelheim and Eli Lilly cut the 40% following government negotiated Medicare reductions. Pfizer leads the increases on around 80 medicines, mostly under 10%, but COVID vaccine Comirnaty will rise 15%. The move comes as the Trump dollar agreement with Tesla. The company has warned that rising component costs and global tariff risks could add uncertainty in 2026. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.